Now, of course, the gifts of the Holy Spirit are quite fascinating. They bring hope, they encourage people, and undoubtedly, a lot of people are interested in them. And because of that, and for more reasons that we'll look deeper into, I feel like they're being misused quite a lot. And one of the biggest reasons why the gifts of the Holy Spirit may be misused is through peer pressure or church culture. So, to my understanding, in some church cultures, there is quite a higher emphasis on the gifts of the Holy Spirit. It's very beautiful to put an emphasis on the gifts of the Holy Spirit and knowing how to use them and how to steward them well. But at times, some people might feel pressured that they should show a specific gift of the Holy Spirit, and that causes peer pressure. That might cause people to try to make, for example, prophecies when they might not really be gifted with that, or maybe God doesn't want them to prophesy at that time. But because they're surrounded by this culture where everyone is doing something, whether it's speaking in tongues or prophesying or doing this and that, and so they want to feel like they're included. And that's when things can go a little bit the wrong way, and also the gifts are not being used correctly. Not only that, but it can also sometimes pressure people to exaggerate the gifts. So even if they do have the gifts, but let's say someone else seems to be more involved in those gifts or have more experience, some people might feel like they have to exaggerate. It'll make you look absolutely extravagant because they want to be on the same level as the other person. And at times it can even lead to faking these gifts. This actually falls into the category of people pleasing. And I need to remind you of what Paul says in Galatians chapter 1 verse 10, where he says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." And again, I just feel like some people might be using these gifts for people pleasing, or to, I guess, attract more people to these churches to make it seem more attractive and more fun. So I'll give one example because I feel like this gift is probably one of the gifts that's being misused most often, and that is the gift of prophesying. Yes, I do think the gift of prophesying is real. I know that there are real prophecies and there are prophecies in the Bible too, and that's, a vivid example that it does exist. However, the reality is that when it's being used to attract people to church rather than focusing more on the teachings, it doesn't really stand on a solid foundation. And again, because of this, there are lots of false prophets or people who think they're prophesying, but they're really not. It's not the Spirit of God speaking to them. It's probably either the enemy or just their own thoughts. And so we need to be cautious and we need to have discernment about that, because we can't be pleasing people to avoid them leaving the church because whatever reason that might be. What I do think would be better to do is probably to know or find ways, and that is again beautiful ways, to preach the gospel, to make people understand what the Bible means, because again, we need to rely on truth. We can't make them look more pleasing to people or more easy or make it fit today's society or today's mentality. No, because the laws that God gave us and the commandments that he gave us and all his words, they are set to be the truth. And so we need to stand on that truth and not to try to change it. And again, I'm just going to bring in the gift of the Holy Spirit as well. Yes, it's good to do it alongside that, but does it build on what they're trying to teach, or is it just being overdone to look extravagant or to stand out?